All right, Shane. So I know one of the big things coming up here in the next few months is the election. All right. What do you think? Rates are going to do, home prices are going to do with that. Do you think it'll have an effect or not so much?
Man, short answer is yes. I definitely think it will.
Yeah.
I know historically, I think they showed that interest rates have dropped after almost every single election.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But I think it's such a minimal amount. I think it's like 0.1%, right, change in rates. So I really don't think that's going to be the changing factor. I think the biggest thing here, not a political statement, but there needs to be something that changes in the economy,
Yeah.
And with, President Biden actually recently dropping out, either way, we're going to get a change.
Yeah. Sure.
So I think that's kind of come bring in a kind of a new fresh face and new policies and everything with that. The most recent thing too with the Feds, there's almost 100% certainty that there's going to be a Fed rate cut before the end of this year in 2024.
Yeah.
Which will definitely help.
So it's like 90-something% for September.
Yeah.
Which I think, the Fed is not a political organization, right? But I think that's one of the reasons that you see, 8 of the last 11 presidential elections rates have decreased.
Yeah.
Because most of the time there's some influence there, and it always helps if you're a president and you're dropping interest rates and you can run on that right before. So they have that September I think it's middle of September 18th or something meeting that I believe is the last one before the election. I think there's one in December. Don't quote me on that. But so I think that's kind of the one I'm looking at where I think the election could come into play with that, and we may see what I follow, which kind of is investor sentiment on what it's going to do in the market and what the Fed's going to do. I think last I saw was like 96% that they cut 25 to 50 basis points.
Yeah.
Which I think, and you're probably going here, not going to have a huge effect on interest rate, but what it will have a huge effect on is sentiment, right?
Yeah.
Buyer sentiment, and them thinking, oh, finally rates have been cut. Let me enter the market, right?
Yep.
So if you're borderline, if you've been pre-approved or you're thinking about purchasing, that date that I would have in mind is, and it's probably not an exact date, right? But sometime in that middle of September, where if you haven't purchased by then or gone under contract by then, it's not the end of the world, but you're just probably going to have to deal with a little more competition.
Yep, for sure. And a lot of the times, whenever the Feds make a big hike or a big rate cut in this scenario, a lot of times interest rates start going down in anticipation of that too. So I think we're definitely going to see that as long as the dot plot, Fed chairman voting on there still is likely to reduce that. I think we'll start to see a drop maybe in early September, maybe a mid-sixes. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and you know better than anybody, right? I think because, the other stat that we've talked about, that you talked about, right, it's home prices have gone up 7 of the last 8 years in the presidential election. But that's connected, right? Like normally when interest rates drop, demand increases, so home prices are going to. So that's, those are probably all connected, right? But yeah, with this being an election year and with this being as much craziness that is out there, right? I do think there's a very real possibility that if you're purchasing a home today, you're going to pay less than if you're purchasing a home January 1st, right? With what we have coming up with, the election, home prices, and interest rates. I think all those are going to kind of, lead to a probably busier, or at least I hope, a busier than normal Q4 in the housing market for sure.
For sure. So. Absolutely, man. Who are you going to vote for? Everyone's wanting to know.
RFK. Thanks so much for joining us on this podcast. If you have any questions or any disagreements on what we said, if you could send those to Shane, and any questions, just go ahead and send them my way. Thanks.
Yeah, y'all stay informed, stay cautious, and protect your financial investment. Let us know whatever other concerns you have. We're here to help.
Was that just off the cuff, or did he put that in there?
I wrote that down.
I was going to say, that's pretty good.